When the Zorati first arrived on Earth, they saw humanity as weak and helpless, their advanced technology making them feel unstoppable. The aliens had conquered countless worlds before, and Earth's primitive inhabitants seemed no different. They landed their massive ships over major cities, expecting to crush resistance with ease and enslave the human race. The Zorati thought they had all the power and the humans would simply cower in fear. But they were wrong. Unbeknownst to the invaders, humanity had been quietly preparing for this moment. For years, a secret group of military veterans, martial artists, and tactical experts had been training in covert locations across the globe. They studied alien technology and combat strategies, learning how to fight in ways the Zorati would never expect. When the invasion began, humanity fought back with surprising skill. It wasn't with high-tech weapons or advanced gadgets, but with knowledge, strategy, and raw combat expertise. The Zorati were used to battles fought with superior firepower, but they quickly discovered that humans fought with something far more dangerous: ingenuity. In the streets of New York, a group of human fighters, trained in hand-to-hand combat, took on a squad of Zorati soldiers. The aliens were massive and armored, wielding energy weapons, but the humans knew how to use their size against them. With lightning-fast jiu-jitsu moves, they disabled the Zorati one by one, flipping them onto their backs and disarming them before they even knew what had happened. Elsewhere, in the forests of California, another group of humans used the environment to their advantage. The Zorati were used to fighting in open spaces, but the humans moved like shadows, striking quickly and then disappearing into the trees. The Zorati, unable to track them with their advanced technology, found themselves picked off, one soldier at a time, by guerrilla fighters who knew the terrain like the back of their hands. The invaders began to realize they were facing an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered. Humans fought not just with their hands and weapons but with their minds. They understood their enemy's tactics, exploited their weaknesses, and adapted on the fly. The Zorati tried to escalate the war, calling for reinforcements and deploying heavier forces, but humanity had already begun turning the tide. Videos of human victories, of ordinary people standing up to the alien threat, spread across the globe. The world united in a way it never had before. Even those who once feared the Zorati began to rally together, taking up arms, learning combat techniques, and showing the aliens just how far the human spirit could stretch. The final blow came when a small human team infiltrated the heart of the Zorati fleet. They had studied the alien ships for months, learning their weaknesses and using their own technology against them. With silent precision, they planted explosives inside the command vessel, setting off a chain reaction that tore the ship apart. The Zorati fleet was thrown into chaos, and with their leadership shattered, they were forced to retreat. Earth had won. The Zorati, who once believed the humans to be no more than fragile beings, had learned a harsh lesson: never underestimate the strength of the human will. With their invasion repelled, the Zorati left Earth, but the humans emerged victorious, not because they had superior weapons but because they had something far more powerful: the ability to adapt, learn, and fight with everything they had. In the years that followed, Earth became a symbol of resilience, showing the galaxy that no matter how powerful an enemy might be, humanity would never be helpless. The war had taught them that their true strength wasn't in their technology, but in their hearts and minds, and that was something no alien force could ever truly conquer. Chapter 1: The Arrival. The planet Caltart 6 had long been home to the Zrathians, a highly intelligent, powerful alien race. These beings had developed technologies that far surpassed human achievements, and their civilization thrived with a mixture of strength, advanced science, and rigorous discipline. Humanity, on the other hand, was still considered a relatively young species. Despite the rapid pace of human technological development, they had only recently begun to reach out into the vastness of space. As part of a joint exploration program with the Zrathians, a small group of humans was sent to Caltart 6 for peaceful diplomatic purposes and to study the advanced alien technology. In the eyes of the Zrathians, humans were weak. The concept of warfare among them was laughable. With their advanced physical attributes and technology, they couldn't fathom how the humans could possibly contribute to anything important. The humans who arrived were mostly scientists, diplomats, and engineers, intellectuals with no real combat experience. Among them was Cameron Drake, a quiet, seemingly unremarkable man in his early 30s. He had been sent along as part of the diplomatic delegation, but there was something about him that the aliens couldn't understand. Cameron had always been an outsider, someone who preferred the quiet of his own mind to the company of others. But there was something more beneath the surface. A past he had kept hidden even from his fellow humans. The Zrathians viewed Cameron with pity, assuming that like the rest of humanity he was utterly incapable of defending himself. But Cameron's past wasn't what they expected. Chapter 2: The training begins. The first few days on Caltart 6 were filled with discussions, lectures and collaborative projects between the humans and Zrathians. Cameron spent most of his time observing, quietly taking in the advanced technology and alien culture. His fellow humans were content to stay within their diplomatic roles, but something about the Zrathian demeanor rubbed Cameron the wrong way. The way they spoke of humans as lesser beings, the way they seemed to look down on him, he knew he had to prove himself. One evening, the Zrathians announced that they would be conducting physical assessments of the human crew. They wanted to test their strength, endurance, and adaptability. The humans assumed this was a formality, a simple evaluation of their physical capacities. What they didn't realize was that the Zrathians would be assessing them for combat potential. The arena was a vast open space, surrounded by towering Zrathian officials and soldiers. Cameron, despite his unease, stepped forward as the first human volunteer. The crowd of Zrathians chuckled, their laughter echoing around the arena. "You wish to prove yourself, little human," one of the Zrathian soldiers sneered. Cameron only nodded. He was ready to show them that humans weren't as helpless as they thought. The first challenge was a simple one: a combat simulation. Humans had no way of knowing what they were about to face. After all, the Zrathians' technology was far beyond human capabilities. The simulation began with a group of Zrathian soldiers armed with energy blades, each of them standing at attention as they prepared to engage Cameron in the fight. Cameron stood at the center, heart pounding in his chest. His hand tightened around a training blade, a mere fraction of what the Zrathians used, but it was enough. As the first Zrathian moved forward with unnatural speed, Cameron instinctively dropped low, sweeping his opponent's legs from beneath him. The Zrathian fell with a grunt, its armor clanging against the ground. The Zrathian soldiers were momentarily stunned, unsure of what had just happened. They had expected the human to be weak and slow, but Cameron's reaction was anything but. The next wave came in and Cameron adapted quickly. He moved like a shadow, learning and adjusting with each strike, dodging, blocking and countering the Zrathians with precision. It was clear that Cameron had training, real combat training. The Zrathians had thought humans to be naive and unprepared, but they were wrong. "What is this?" a Zrathian commander asked, his tone now tinged with curiosity. A few more soldiers charged in, but each one was dispatched with growing ease. Cameron was a whirlwind, his mind and body working together, each move a calculated response to the aliens' speed and power. The Zrathians watched in shock, realizing that they were facing more than just a helpless human. They were facing a warrior. The combat session ended with Cameron standing victorious, breathing heavily but proud. He had proven something to himself, and to the Zrathians. "Your species has surprises," the Zrathian commander admitted, his voice low and calculating. "You are not weak. Not like we believed." Cameron, still catching his breath, gave a small smirk. "You've only seen the beginning." This could set the stage for a larger story where Cameron continues to train, eventually becoming a force to be reckoned with. His relationship with the Zrathians would shift as they begin to take him seriously, and perhaps even form alliances with some of the alien factions that recognize his skills. Chapter 3: The First Trial. The combat training facility aboard the Zalari warship was an enormous, circular arena with walls lined with hollow panels displaying simulated battle environments. The air buzzed with anticipation as an assembly of various alien cadets gathered around to witness the humans' first real test. Lieutenant Renak, a towering reptilian Zalari instructor, narrowed his slitted eyes at Lieutenant Commander Jason Grant, the lone human among them. "Today's exercise is simple," Renak announced. "Survive." A heavy blast door hissed open, revealing 3 Holdrak combat drones. They were heavily armored, programmed to adapt to their opponent's weaknesses, and equipped with shock batons and plasma blades. Their mechanical limbs moved with eerie precision as they analyzed Jason with their glowing red optics. The assembled aliens chuckled among themselves. Everyone expected the human to fail. Fragile, slow, and weak, such was their belief about Jason's species. Jason rolled his shoulders and took a deep breath. Let's get this over with. The drones lunged at him in perfect synchronization. Jason sidestepped the first attack with surprising agility, ducking beneath a sweeping baton strike. The second drone's plasma blade arced toward him, but he spun, grabbing the drone's wrist and using its own momentum to flip it onto its back. The crowd went silent. Renak's expression hardened. Again. The drones adjusted their strategy, moving in unpredictable patterns. Jason anticipated their attacks, evading with fluid movements, using leverage instead of brute force. He targeted joints, disarming one drone and using its baton against another. A well-placed strike to a neural junction disabled the final opponent. Jason stood over the disabled drones, barely out of breath. That all you got? The room was stunned. No one had expected this outcome. Renak clenched his jaw. Again. Increased difficulty. Chapter 4. Breaking expectations. The next trial was a group combat simulation. Jason would have to fight alongside alien cadets against an advanced set of enemies. Renak paired Jason with a squad of 4 aliens. Tevrak, a massive 4-armed Gorvani warrior, known for brute strength but little strategy. Kesari, a sleek, feline-like Solaren, an expert in speed and stealth. Brel, a towering insectoid with a chitinous exoskeleton, capable of releasing bioelectric pulses. Dren, a telekinetic Zelver who barely acknowledged Jason's presence. Their mission: breach a simulated fortress guarded by combat AI and retrieve a flag representing a high-value asset. Tevrak groaned. The human will slow us down. Jason smirked. Try to keep up. As the simulation started, the team rushed forward. Jason took cover behind a ruined wall, scanning enemy positions. He quickly noticed the others relied too much on brute force, charging headfirst. It almost cost them as plasma turrets activated, peppering their advance with fire. Pull back. Tevrak cover. Curry flank left. Jason barked orders instinctively. To their surprise, his strategy worked. Tevrak's bulk shielded them, Kesari disabled a turret, and Jason weaved through the chaos, disabling enemies with precise, efficient movements. When Dren hesitated to use his telekinesis, Jason grabbed a fallen enemy's weapon and tossed it to him. Make yourself useful. Dren, irritated, unleashed a powerful force wave, clearing the path. Jason sprinted forward, grabbing the flag just as enemy reinforcements arrived. The simulation ended. Silence filled the room. Then Renak spoke. Not bad, for a human. Jason grinned. You haven't seen anything yet. The aliens no longer saw him as weak. They saw him as a threat. Chapter 5. The first test. The underground facility was silent, except for the hum of machinery. The aliens stood in a circle watching the human, a being they had considered weak and defenseless. Their eyes, cold and calculating, examined every movement, anticipating the failure that would confirm their assumptions. For the human, this was not just another test. This was the moment to prove them wrong. Serena, the human in question, had trained for weeks under the harshest conditions the aliens could imagine. They had thought she would falter, that her strength was nothing more than fragile hope. What they didn't understand was that humans, especially Serena, thrived under pressure. Begin, a deep, rumbling voice echoed from the crowd of alien observers. Serena's gaze flickered to the opponent in front of her. The alien towered over her, its sleek, armored form a stark contrast to her comparatively unassuming appearance. The creature's massive claws twitched in anticipation, and Serena felt a rush of adrenaline surge through her veins. The aliens had equipped her with minimal gear, thinking it would hinder her. She wore a simple suit of light armor designed to withstand only basic physical attacks, nothing special. It was enough. The alien charged, its massive form slicing through the air like a thunderstorm. Serena dodged just in time, narrowly avoiding the deadly claws that swiped toward her. It was a blur of motion, but she was already prepared. She twisted in mid-air, slamming her elbow into the creature's side as it passed, using its own momentum to land a hit. The alien recoiled, stunned, but it quickly turned, its eyes flashing with irritation. The aliens were beginning to look uneasy. They had expected her to fail, but Serena's movements were precise, almost instinctual. It wasn't just physical training that made her a threat. Her mind worked faster than theirs, anticipating every move before it happened. She wasn't just surviving, she was adapting. Chapter 6. Turning the Tide. The alien forces were starting to lose confidence in their initial assessment. Serena had already taken down 2 of the test subjects, each larger and stronger than the last. The spectators, a collection of alien commanders and scientists, exchanged anxious glances. They were unsure of how to proceed. Their methods had been designed to break her, to demonstrate that humans were nothing more than fragile creatures in the face of superior technology and strength. But Serena wasn't just any human. As the next test began, Serena stood still in the center of the arena, her chest heaving with steady breaths. Across from her, an elite alien soldier stepped forward, its armor gleaming under the harsh lights. This one wasn't like the others. It was faster, more agile, and armed with advanced weapons. The challenge would be different. "I've seen what you can do, human," the alien commander said, its voice laced with a subtle note of respect. "But let's see how well you fare against real combat." The fight was brutal. The alien soldier lunged, its energy sword slicing through the air with deadly precision. Serena barely avoided the blade, feeling the heat from it just inches from her skin. She had learned to anticipate and dodge, but now the stakes were higher. With a quick glance, Serena scanned the arena. The alien's movements were fluid, but there was a pattern. Serena darted forward, drawing the soldier into a series of rapid tactical maneuvers that tested both of their endurance and skill. The crowd of aliens fell silent, mesmerized by her speed and intelligence. Serena wasn't relying solely on strength. She was using strategy, reading her opponent's every move. Finally, with a swift movement, she disarmed the alien soldier, sending its weapon clattering to the floor. The soldier staggered back, surprise etched across its face. Serena didn't hesitate. She followed up with a quick series of strikes to vital points on the soldier's body, forcing it into submission. The room was deathly quiet. The alien commanders exchanged confused looks. They had never seen anything like it. Serena stood over the fallen soldier, breathing heavily but victorious. "What did I tell you?" she said, her voice steady, her eyes fierce. "I'm far from helpless." Chapter 7. The First Strike. The aliens watched with quiet amusement as the humans, initially perceived as weak and vulnerable, stood in a barren training yard. Their smooth, armored exteriors shimmered in the dim light of the artificial sky, their sharp eyes scanning every movement. They had seen many species in the galaxy, and every single one had faltered before them. The humans, with their fragile frames and apparent lack of advanced technology, seemed no different. But the humans were about to prove them wrong. Instructor Jace stood in the middle of the field, the once stoic, confident alien soldiers now just observers. He could feel their gaze on him, knowing they were still underestimating humanity. His squad, consisting of hand-picked soldiers who had experienced the full spectrum of alien brutality, stood at the ready, their eyes locked on the first alien opponent. "Ready yourselves," Jace called out, his voice calm but carrying an edge. "This is not just a test of strength. It's about outthinking them, anticipating their every move." "Sir," Lieutenant Collins spoke, her voice unwavering, "we've trained for months. It's time." With a nod, Jace signaled to the training drones to activate. As they whirred to life, alien soldiers in their own advanced, slick armor moved forward to engage the humans. The air hummed with tension. The aliens had never seen anything like this before. The first alien warrior lunged with lightning speed, its weapon poised to strike Collins. But in a fluid motion, Collins sidestepped, grabbing the alien's arm and twisting it behind its back. The shock on the alien's face was clear, as if it couldn't fathom how a human could move with such precision. Before it could react, Collins slammed her knee into the creature's chest, knocking the wind out of it. A clean hit. The alien staggered, momentarily disoriented. "Impressive," one of the alien commanders murmured, leaning in toward his comrades. They moved faster than anticipated. The humans hadn't even broken a sweat. Their training had focused on agility, timing, and adapting to the opponent's strengths. What they lacked in raw physical power they made up for in experience and resourcefulness. Next came a larger, stronger alien, its brute force intimidating at first glance. But Jace anticipated the attack, quickly moving into a defensive stance. As the alien swung its weapon, Jace ducked low, rolling behind it with fluid precision. The alien's momentum worked against it, and before it could turn, Jace was already on its back, locking his arms around its neck in a submission hold. The aliens' eyes widened. They were no longer just witnessing humans flounder in the face of combat. They were witnessing something different. Humans who could take down aliens with their own strikes. Jace grinned. Lesson 1, he called out to his squad. Don't be afraid to exploit their weaknesses. Chapter 8, The Turning Point. The alien commanders huddled together, whispering in hushed tones. Their expressions were a mix of confusion and unease. This was no longer just a show of military tactics. The humans, with their limited technology and small stature, had far exceeded expectations. I don't understand, Commander Xylo muttered. These creatures should have crumbled under the pressure. Yet, they fight as though they are born for this. A higher-ranking alien, Commander Zorv, stroked his elongated chin thoughtfully. It's their adaptability. The human mind is far more flexible than we've anticipated. They learn quickly, adjust tactics faster than we can predict. I saw their movements, another alien remarked. Their precision. Their endurance. They've trained like they have something to prove. Zorv's eyes narrowed, a hint of realization flickering across his face. Perhaps it's not just their training. Perhaps they know something we don't. Back on the field, Jace and his team were pushing themselves harder, testing their limits. Each alien soldier was more challenging than the last, but the humans seemed to thrive under pressure. Collins and Jace were already anticipating the next set of moves, adapting their tactics on the fly. The last alien, a towering behemoth with a weapon capable of cutting through steel, charged with reckless abandon. It was faster than anything the humans had faced, its strikes brutal and fast. Yet Jace saw the telltale sign of overconfidence in its eyes. It believed the battle was already won. He wasn't so sure. Team form up, Jace ordered. Stick together, we're taking it down. They closed in, working as a coordinated unit. Each human knew their place, their movements synchronized like a finely tuned machine. Collins feinted to the right, drawing the alien's attention, while Jace darted in from the left, slipping between its massive legs and striking at its joints with deadly accuracy. The alien roared in frustration, unable to track all of them at once. The battle seemed to slow, each move deliberate. Finally, with a well-placed strike to the alien's vulnerable neck joint, Jace brought the beast down. The alien hit the ground with a thud, defeated. For a long moment there was silence. Then Commander Zorv's voice broke through the stillness. We've underestimated them, he said, a note of awe in his voice. The humans are no longer what we thought them to be. This was no mere test. They've turned the tables. Jace wiped the sweat from his brow, his eyes scanning the remaining aliens. They had proven their point, and yet something lingered in the air. The aliens had just realized that the humans were not so helpless after all. This, Jace said with a confident smile, is only the beginning. These chapters highlight the unexpected strength and adaptability of the humans as they train and face off against alien soldiers. The twist lies in the aliens underestimating the humans, only to realize they are far more capable than anticipated. The story could take a deeper dive into the aliens' realization that humanity may be their greatest threat, setting the stage for a larger conflict. Chapter 9, The Reckoning. The training grounds of the Galactic Coalition Academy were silent, save for the occasional mechanical whir of drone sentries. Rows of alien cadets, each hailing from different corners of the galaxy, stood ready for their final assessment. Their ranks included the towering reptilian Crovar, the multi-limbed Zinthri, and the shadowy insectoid Fursha. Each species had spent years honing their abilities for war, perfecting the art of battle. And yet, all eyes were on the lone human standing before them. Jack Carter adjusted his combat gloves, exhaling slowly. He had come a long way since his arrival at the academy, where he had been dismissed as weak and frail by his alien counterparts. That perception had shattered weeks ago when he demonstrated what human ingenuity and adaptability truly meant. Now he had one last challenge to prove that humanity was not a mere footnote in the grand history of war. Instructor Velan, a stern-looking Zinthri with 6 arms and razor-sharp mandibles, surveyed the cadets with an unreadable expression. The final evaluation will be a simulated combat scenario, he announced. Your team will be pitted against an advanced combat AI, designed to adapt to your every move. The simulation ends when the AI is neutralized, or when you are. A hushed murmur spread through the crowd. The combat AI was notorious for its lethality. Few cadets had ever passed this trial without suffering virtual death. But Jack simply smirked. Let's get started. As the simulation engaged, the landscape around them shifted. The sterile training grounds were replaced by a dense jungle teeming with synthetic wildlife. The challenge had begun. The AI-controlled enemy force struck immediately, deploying mechanical drones and heavily armored warbots. Jack and his team scattered, using the environment to their advantage. The Crowvar warriors engaged in brutal close combat, their sheer strength shattering enemy lines. The Zinthari provided covering fire with their precision energy rifles. The Fursha used their natural camouflage to strike from the shadows. And then there was Jack. He moved with a speed and efficiency that left even his allies in awe. Where other species relied on brute force or advanced technology, Jack relied on something far more dangerous: strategy. He anticipated the AI's every move, setting traps and leading enemies into bottlenecks where his teammates could overwhelm them. At one point, a massive warbot cornered a Zinthari sniper. Jack sprinted toward the towering machine, dodging plasma fire with inhuman reflexes. In one fluid motion he scaled its metal frame, pried open a weak joint, and slammed an explosive charge into the exposed circuitry. The resulting blast sent debris flying, and the battlefield fell silent for a moment before the fighting resumed. By the time the final enemy fell, the jungle was in ruins. Smoke and sparks filled the air, but Jack and his team stood victorious. The simulation ended, returning them to the sterile training room. Instructor Villainous mandibles twitched in what could almost be mistaken for approval. "The human passes," he said simply. The aliens around Jack exchanged glances. No one doubted him anymore. Chapter 10. A New Frontier. The days following the combat assessment were a blur of celebrations and promotions. Jack Carter had done the impossible. He had proven that humans were more than just fragile creatures on the galactic stage. He had earned respect not through sheer power, but through adaptability, intelligence, and sheer determination. His squad had grown close to him. The Crowvar warriors, who had once ridiculed his small stature, now greeted him with brotherly slaps on the back, though he still had to brace himself against their immense strength. The Zinthari, who valued precision and calculation, regarded him as a tactical genius. Even the aloof Fursha acknowledged him with silent nods. It wasn't long before high-ranking officials of the Galactic Coalition took notice. A summons arrived requesting Jack's presence at the Strategic Command Center. When he arrived, he was greeted by Admiral Threx, a grizzled veteran of the Coalition. "Carter," the Admiral said, folding his clawed hands. "Your performance in the combat trials was unexpected." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Unexpected good or unexpected bad?" The Admiral let out a low chuckle. "Good, very good. You see, the Coalition has been facing increasing threats from the Outer Rim warlords. We need individuals who can think beyond brute force and raw power. We need someone like you." Jack crossed his arms. "What exactly are you offering?" "A command position. You would lead a specialized unit. One that operates outside conventional strategies." Jack considered this for a moment. He had come a long way from the Earthling nobody everyone underestimated. Now he had a chance to shape the future of galactic warfare itself. A slow grin spread across his face. "Count me in." As he left the command center, he knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning.